Scene 6, August 8th, 1596, Faversham Town Hall, Kent. Outside on the village street, where pedestrians generally disregard occasional beggars who use hats to collect donations. Enter Dick Burbage and Will Shakespeare in the first part of Henry IV costumes. Burbage thus as Prince Hal, Will Archbishop Scrope. Each wears a hat and plays an instrument. Their fanfare done, each stops, removes his hat, turns it upside down, and extends it to audience gallants or invisible passers-by.
Beseech you, sir, could you us lend your change?
I pray you, gentle lady, 7 groats and 2pence have you for a player poor?
Your graces, might ye kindly spare on us some 7 groats and 2pence worth of bread?
We players, also known as homeless poor, your mercies here do cry, for we do not your bounty thieve, but stead your grace implore,
relying on a stranger's coiny gift, and giving our performance in return.
Which trade we know is not, but 'tis the best flawed mirror we do have of honest work.
Will now says to Burbage rather than to passers-by,
Our Kemp spake true, this tortuous tortoise tour no crop doth yield, and worse doth writing quash. Tomorrow and tomorrow.
Burbage says, still to passers-by,
Today at noon, in situ Faversham Town Hall, Kent, we Henry IV part 1 of 2 will play. See Harry Hotspur battle young Prince Hal. Say no? Ah, well, my lords, when next we ask, perchance ye shall a gamer answer give. We got a mercy, thank you, none the less.
Thou takest their negation too polite. A purse is fort to breach, one can't beg shy, for shyness is a frill reserved for heirs.
Burbage says to passers-by,
Lack, poor Tom, a bedlam is of cold. I who will give a thing to poorest Tom, whom foul the fiend with fire and flame doth vex. Oh, do, poor Tom, your charity afford. Oh, do-de-do-de-do-de-do-de-do.
Thy gold-lined frock befitteth not poor Tom.
Burbage says to Will,
These gentles would a poorer Tom evade.
Perchance we ought a higher district find.
A higher district less would give, not more.
We could at depot stops the ducks accost, while trapped within their carriages they sat.
The constables this shift would not permit.
Will says to passers-by,
Ye think that feeding us doth beggars teach to idle, or, what's worse, to you deceive? The moon on rich and poor alike doth shine, and whether we the true or false you tell, 'tis better 12 malingerers to feed than one plain-speaking soul to starve.
Perchance a simpler pitch would closer strike.
Will says to passers-by, as if they were deaf,
I need your gold, that I a pint might quaff.
Burbage says to Will,
Hast thou the loot yet stashed within thy boot?
Scant loot to stash hath yet this day bestowed.
This town's too old, too lacking spoony youth. A single smouldering soul can light a charge.
Methinks that we this spot before did drain, or secret monks and nuns their prayers have sold, disgorging all the gentles' purses dry.
Burbage says to passers-by,
A veteran I, who served in foreign wars.
Will says to Burbage,
'Tis pity foreign wars serve not in thee.
With his musical instrument, Burbage makes a din. Burbage says to passers-by,
Until ye do your horn of plenty share, this horn's most noxious noise I'll never cease.
Nay, better far we silent beggars be.
Burbage and Will mug pathetic looks to spectators. Enter Will Kemp, unnoticed, as Sir John Oldcastle or Falstaff in the first part of Henry IV. Kemp watches Will and Burbage compete before he ambushes them.
Is this the face that launched 1,000 shillings?
And burnt the topless towers of ill repute?
What news from court? Hath Majesty yet picked?
She hath, 'tis he.
Lord Cobham?
Cobham, he.
Now new Lord Chamberlain.
Bless us and be hanged.
What's more, the first Lord Hunsdon's funeral shall, on August 12th, 4 days from now, befall. We must attend our reverence to show.
We must abstain our show to reverence.
But Cobham in our absence will conspire.
Our drama in thine absence would be dire. For even if the friars we preserve, which still we might if Georgie's on our side, 'twill profit naught if thy new works go off at 1:30, not ripened first out here.
The works will work, and ripened in my brain. Some 12 days since they fruiting were.
Then let them hear our coffers fructify.
Enough with Henry IV's. Of Henry V I chop to write, and of the martyrdom the best beheading could be had that fat Sir John endured at Hal's behest.
And canst thou not this write while we play here?
To no avail if I don't write it right. To write a teetering mass doth ballast take, that country feather-weighted bumpkin seeds cannot in faith to me on tour provide.
Oh, hang it, Will! They may not spare us gold, and yet their golden, clapping, stomping cheers do spare ourselves at least from dark despair.
Enter John Shakespeare, without Will's yet noticing.
This Cobham doth our livelihoods accost, and we this petty pace from day to day do march as if our time would never end. Our candles brief do flame, then flicker out, our plays mere shadows, ephemeral 'gainst a wall.
John says to Kemp.
Beseech you, where is William Shakespeare, poet?
Kemp says to John.
The question that, a piece of him is there.
Will says to Burbage.
We fret and strut our hours upon the stage.
Kemp says to John.
Who asketh?
Will says to John, whom he now notices.
Wherefore art thou here?
Burbage says to Will of John.
Who's he?
John says to Kemp of Will.
How did he know?
Kemp says to John.
Know what?
John says to Kemp.
My toxic news.
Will says to Burbage.
My father.
Burbage says to Will.
Come from Stratford all this way?
Kemp says to John.
You portray in Will's new history play. 'Tis thou, but nay, 'tis not. 'Tis someone more.
John says to Will.
I'm so... Oh, Will.
Oh, what?
'Tis Hamnet.
Nay, his son.
Alack!
Thy boy. He's very...
Exit Will, rushing. Exit John, following.
Will?
Exeunt Kemp and Burbage, chasing Will.